Shua Tov, Mishnah Yomi is in the fourth chapter of Eiruvin at Mishnah Yud. We are in the topic of making an Eruv techum to extend the distance somebody can travel on the Sabbath. Now Mishnah 10 says, Mi sheyotza leilech be'ir sheme'arvin ba. So someone went out on a journey, basically, to go towards the next city down to make an Eruv so they could travel to the next city. So he's actually doing this on behalf of other people as well. He's going to go out there and he's going to get to a point where they'll be able to travel to the next city. He's going to place food there on behalf of himself and other people in his city. So he's set out to do that. He set out to make an Eruv. And his buddy says, listen, it's going to be too cold tomorrow. It's going to be too hot tomorrow. There's lions on the road. Whatever the excuse is, don't bother. So the din is, who mutter leilech? This one man, the messenger who is going to put the Eruv down, he's allowed to go to the next city if he wants to, because he intended to go and put the Eruv down. But the rest of the people in his city, the other people he was going to place an Eruv on behalf of, they can't go. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's according to Rabbi Yehuda. The logic here is he set out on the journey already. He set out on the derech to go and place the Eruv, and that's enough to be koneh hishvisa, to place his Eruv there at that location he intended to go. Rabbi Meir says, Kol shu yochul la'arev v'lo Eruv, somebody who was able to go and make the Eruv there, but he did not, hareze chamer gomel. He is stuck. Literally, he's between the donkey and the camel. We mentioned in the third Mishnah in this parak, a chamer gomel, you have to go behind a donkey and in front of a camel. So it's a way of saying you can't go past that one and you can't go past this one. You're stuck in the middle. So basically, this one man who set out on the journey, Rabbi Meir has a suffix. There's a doubt if his shvisa is the default in his own city, or if his shvisa is at that place he intended to go and put the Eruv. So he can only travel in between those two places, but he couldn't go, say, past the Eruv in the further out, and he couldn't go past his city further out in the opposite direction. On to Mishnah Yud Aleph, Mishnah 11. Somebody went out of the techum. Now, in the first Mishnah, we learned if somebody was forcibly removed from the techum. Later on, we learned if somebody went out of the techum with permission, they were allowed to return and have their original techum, go back to their original city. But here, maybe they wandered off, but they weren't, out of their mind when they did so. But they accidentally or on purpose went out of the techum. Afilu amma achat, even one amma outside, lo yekanes, can't go back inside. Now, he does have his 4 amot of personal space that he can go within, but as we talked about earlier, but he can't go back into the original techum. Rabbi Eliezer omer shtayim yekanes. If he's only 2 amot out, he can go back in using his personal space of 4 amot with him at the center, so he could go 2 amot. But shalosh lo yekanes. If he's already 3 amot outside of the Eruv, when he realizes what happened, out of the techum rather, when he realizes what happened, he can't get back into the techum because he only has 2 amot of travel space, according to Rabbi Eliezer. We saw earlier that the sages disagree. They said he could go 4 amot in one direction, so they would actually allow him to get back inside if he was 3 amot outside, as long as it was less than 4. Mishnah continues, Misha hechshich chutz. Somebody who was traveling, who was outside the city, and shkia hit, Mazel Tov, it's Shabbos, and he was outside of the techum Shabbos of the city. Afilu amma achat, even 1 amma outside, lo yekanes, can't go in. Now you understand, he can go in, but only 2,000 amma from where he was when Shkia hit. So you understand, Kamuvan, the whole city might be 10 or 20,000 amot across, but he can't go through the entire city. He can only go, 1,999 amot into the city. So he only has use of some of it because he was 1 amma outside the techum of the city when it started. Rabbi Shimon Omer, afilu 15 amot, even if he's 15 amma outside, Yekonis. He could even go 15 amma inside. How does that work? She'ein ham shochot mamtzin et midot. The measurers are not do not shorten the measurements because people come to make mistakes. So two pshatim here is they might put the marker, the boundary marker of the techum for the city a little bit of further in, give a little wiggle room. Very important. You have Shabbos to have a little wiggle room so you get your shower in and everything done. But for the techum Shabbos also important to have some wiggle room. And we're going to see also another explanation is they measured with rope. So it's davka 15 amma because when they held the ropes, we're going to learn in the next parak, there are 50 amma long ropes they would use to measure the 2,000 amma techum extension from the city, and they were, holding it in their hand, and they wouldn't necessarily measure that part they were holding. So if you have one fist length for every rope length to get your 2,000 techum, you end up with 15 amma of leeway. So a person who's right on the border, because there's this leeway, could actually get into the techum of the city and have use of the entire city on Shabbat Kodesh. Be well. Sei gesund.